This is Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, your daily recap of the information that affects Iowa's farmers, producers, and consumers right here in the heart of the heartland. With reports from our award-winning team of Dustin Hoffman, Riley Smith, and Mark Magnuson. Now, from the IARN studios in Des Moines, here's Dustin Hoffman.
This is Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Dustin Hoffman. Today's Thursday, the 15th of January. So glad you could join us here today. Coming up a little later on in the program, we'll hear from the folks at agmarket.net about how the markets closed the day. But first, we're going to talk with Iowa Senator Joni Ernst, talking a little bit about some of the situations facing the Senate Small Business Committee, which she chairs, and hearing testimony about some of the difficulties that farms, ag businesses, and small towns face when getting financing, and some of the red tape that they are having to deal with. We're here on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network and being joined today by Iowa Senator Joni Ernst. She is chair of the Senate Small Business Committee, and we're talking at a time when farmers are looking at trying to secure financing and loans and are facing a lot of red tape along with small agribusinesses, and this is having an effect on the rural economy. Senator Ernst, thank you so much for joining us, and talk a little bit about what the Small Business Committee is working on.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much, Dustin. I was able to convene our small business committee and focus on rural development and our agricultural economy. And so I had two witnesses from Iowa. They were wonderful. We had Melissa Spurgeon. She was from Albia. She is with First Iowa State Bank. And we also had Jay Funky, who is a farmer and someone who developed an equipment, not manufacturing, but an equipment sales business out of Edgewood. And so we brought them in and allowed them to give testimony in front of the committee. And then we talked about potential solutions. One of the issues I wanted to focus on was the Small Business Administration's 7A loan programs, which were developed to help small businesses and farmers access the capital they need. But what we've been discovering is just that the red tape and the requirements sometimes become so burdensome that people don't use those tools.
So tell us a little bit about what the process is, the problems they're running into, maybe, and how you guys are planning to help with that situation.
Yes, Miss Spurgeon, Melissa, she gave a great example of a borrower that had come into the bank, and she worked with that person on a 7A loan through the SBA. And she said the requirements, every time they submitted paperwork, the SBA would come back asking for more and more and more requirements. And eventually it turned into a process that took about 6 months or longer. And that's a long time to secure a loan if you're trying to purchase a business or additional farm ground. So it's just so lengthy, so burdensome. So what we need to do is find a way to streamline the requirements, make it easier for people to apply for those loans. So again, gathering the data from our witnesses, hearing from them, and then translating those into solutions.
Well, and it's interesting that comes up right now because you're looking at a time right now when farmers are having difficulty securing capital for another growing season. Prices are depressed, inputs are continuously getting higher, and also the businesses that are there in these small towns that are trying to help support them or rely on that farm economy to keep that community rolling.
Right, exactly. And we've got a number of efforts where we're trying to allow greater access to capital for our farmers. And one of those is the Modernizing Agricultural and Manufacturing Bond Act, or what I call MAMBA. And it's a way of using tax exempt bonds. The state authorities can access those, and then the lenders, of course, can turn around, loan out to our farmers, whether through the Aggie bonds or industrial development bonds, but raising the cap on those so there is greater access to capital. That's one of my latest efforts. And we also have a Manufacturing Finance Act as well. That's a bipartisan bill, and that's more for our equipment manufacturers. but certainly whether it is the Manufacturing Finance Act or whether it's the Aggie Bond Act, really, that we're working on, we are trying to raise the caps, allow greater access to capital, and through the 7A loan program with the SBA, make sure that it's much more streamlined so that people can access those funds much quicker and much easier.
And so, what kind of support are you seeing on the committee for getting this done?
Well, we see a lot of support, and this is the great thing is that in our committee meeting, of course, I had the two witnesses from Iowa that were fabulous, but also Senator Markey, who's from Massachusetts. He had a couple of witnesses also that were very much in support of some of these programs. And even though agriculture is very different in Massachusetts than it is across the Midwest, they still need access to capital. So there's a common thread regardless of the type of agriculture. So we are seeing some great levels of interest in these bills. And hopefully, as we work through the committee structure, whether it is here or in banking and finance, we can find a way forward.
So then, what's the next step for these bills, Senator, for moving forward?
Well, certainly we have to clear them through the committee process. And as I mentioned, whether it is a program like the 7A loan program that is under the authority of the Small Business Committee, or whether it is a bill that would fall under a different committee, those bills will be referred to the committees. We'll continue to do hearings on them because we do have some really good bipartisan support. We would hope we would be able to get those into what we call in DC a manager's package, where we're bundling a number of bills together to move onto the Senate floor. So hopefully it all works out well. But so far, everybody has been really excited about these opportunities.
Well, Senator, we're glad to hear about that. And I got to ask a quick update, long as I've got you here. Congressman Feenstra was on earlier this week and said he's still hopeful that a farm bill could possibly happen this year. What do you think in the Senate's climate?
Well, excuse me, Randy Feenstra and I are always very optimistic. Senator Grassley is always optimistic, but we also have to be very pragmatic. And it is taking much, much longer than we thought it would to get a farm bill done. So I will continue to be optimistic, but at the same time, we're just going to have to push our chairs and ranking members very, very hard to get this over the finish line.
Well, Senator, we know you've got a busy schedule here today, and we thank you for taking time to visit with us here as usual.
Yeah, of course, Dustin. Thank you for having me.
Again, was Iowa Senator Joni Ernst here on Ag Matters PM. It's time now to go through the closing markets. And for that, we're talking with Kaden Sweeney of agmarket.net. Kaden, we started out rough this week, but things looked a little bit better, at least through the morning. Did that hold in the grain markets today?
Yeah, I mean, not a bad bean market today at all. Closing up 10 here or so in the front month. Corn is down to just continuing to digest Monday's huge number, obviously, but pretty decent little bounce back from the bean market. And going into Monday, we had felt like we had carved out a pretty nice bottom on the bean chart. Just kind of hoped to get a decent enough Monday number on Monday to hold that. And we did get kind of a tough bean number, went back down, checked those lows, and have responded well. And it's certainly a good thing to see, especially on the heels of today's export sales. Over 2 million metric tons this week, which is awesome for the bean market. So certainly a good sign there, a little better than the corn side for sure.
So what also was the driver behind that? Was it just the export sales report today, that good news, or is it just kind of settling down from Monday as well?
Yeah, a little bit of both. I mean, in my opinion, it was a bearish report certainly on Monday as a whole. I think it was more bearish corn than beans. So I think you can make the argument that on Monday beans got drugged down a little bit extra with corn, and then kind of responding well out of that. That export sales certainly is a good sign. That's the best one we've had this marketing year by far. Also, some stuff going on in renewable fuels right now, which is certainly out of my league of expertise. But some rumblings there that kind of got bean oil a little bit excited today. We like to see that as well. So all in all, certainly not a bad market right now.
And then you said front month corn was down a little bit. What was the pressure there? Just kind of the back and forth normal day of the markets?
Yeah, I think so. I don't really see a whole lot of new news here. Just like you said, a market continuing to digest all the data we got on Monday, down about 2 cents today, which a 2 cent move is usually nothing really noteworthy, so to speak. So yeah, I think just continuing to fight around and see, if this market wants to continue to push another leg lower or if we've done enough damage for now.
I know Conab was updating their numbers for Brazil. Did we hear anything out of that report that was significant?
I haven't looked at it close. I did catch a headline. I think that maybe they actually lowered production expectations just a bit, which actually was, another bit of a bullish surprise. So not much. I think maybe 1 million metric ton nationally or something along those lines. But any cuts South America wants to make right now, we'll certainly take. The smaller their crop, the better for sure.
So moving to the livestock side of it, how did cattle and hogs do today? I know they started out the day pretty strong.
Yeah, closing the day really strong too. I mean, hogs on the April making new contract highs up 230 today, which is awesome. Continuing to see cattle continuing their really impressive rebound over the last few months, strong again. Fat cattle up over $1 and feeders up between 4 and 5. So, just so for all the weakness on the grain side, it's more than making up on the livestock side, which has kind of been the story as of late, but just continues to be so certainly.
All right. Well, if folks want to look at some of the intel you guys are looking at and maybe get some ideas on what they should be thinking about going forward, maybe especially booking those 26 crops if they haven't done so already, what's the best way for them to get in touch and start that conversation?
Yep, agmarket.net. Get anyone from our team there. Great point by you on 26. This 25 carryout's big and feels like it's getting bigger. Certainly going to weigh on 26. So a good time to be managing some risk there.
All right. Kaden Sweeney of agmarket.net's been with us here today. Kaden, thanks so much for the insight. We'll talk to you again soon.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you guys as always.
And that was a look at your market analysis from agmarket.net. Let's take a look at how the markets closed on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network market screen. At the close, March corn was down 1 3/4 at 4.20 and a quarter. March beans up 10.5 at 10.53 even. Soy meal down $2.70 at 2.89.20. Soy oil up $1.99 at 52.97. Chicago wheat down 2 at 5.10 and a half. Kansas winter wheat down a nickel at 5.17 and a quarter. Kansas spring wheat down 4.5 at 5.56 and a quarter. Minneapolis spring wheat down 4.5 at 5.62 and a half. Oats up 6 cents at 2.93 and a quarter. On the Merc, live cattle up 90 cents at 236.05. Feeders up 367 at 368.42. Lean hogs up $2.10 at 87.80. Pork cutouts up $2.37 at 96.12. Class 3 milk down 3 cents at 14.74. And that's been a check of the closing markets, and that brings us to the end of today's show. You can find all our content online at iowaagnet.com. From the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network studios in Des Moines, I'm Dustin Huffman. For Mark Magnuson and Riley Smith, we thank you for watching. This has been Ag Matters PM.